Greetings all and welcome to Daily Pali Reading. Today we're continuing with the uncaused nature of Nibbāna. No cetang bhikkhave abhavissa ajatang abhutang akatang asankatang nayidha jatassa bhutassa katassa sankatassa nisaranang panyayeta. Yasma chako bhikkhave ati ajatang abhutang akatang asankatang tasma jatassa bhutassa katassa sankhatassa nisaranang panyayati ti tatayang. I probably should have already mentioned that this sutta is repeated exactly in the Itivutaka, the second section, the sixth sutta, and it even has some longer observations by the Buddha in poetic form after it. If there were not the unborn, the unproduced, the unmade, the uncompounded, the escape from the born, the produced, the made, the compounded, would not here be known. But since, O monks, there is the unborn, the unproduced, the unmade, the uncompounded, the escape from the born, the produced, the made, the uncompounded is known. So one thing that's important to recognize at the very beginning, this word know. It is not the personal pronoun, the shortened form of the personal pronoun. And we know that because it has to be enclitic. That form of the personal pronoun is enclitic. It would not come first. This know is just an emphatic form of na, not. We have cetang, which is che, and etang. Che is if. And we can look here, right past our vocative, our monks, our bhikkhave, to abhavissa. Now this is the first time we've encountered the conditional. So this is a conditional of bhavati, and here it is a contrary to fact condition. I should say, when you look this up in the Pali English Dictionary, this form is listed as a conditional. And if you look at Duroysel's grammar, he mentions that the conditional takes the augment a before the root. And by conditional, we mean that this verb is not stating fact. As I just said, it's contrary to fact. This is not an indicative statement. Now let's talk about the etang here. I take the etang as going with ajatang, abhutang, akatang, asankatang. So really we could say, if this unborn, unproduced, unmade, uncompounded were not, or did not exist, no abhavissa, nayidha. Now nayidha is na plus idha, and when those two come together, usually this y gets inserted, and that's just the way things got pronounced. So nayidha. We could say not here. We might take here first if what preceded is the case here in this world, in this life. Now let's go to our subject here, nisarana, which means some sort of departure, going out, escape, maybe a leaving behind. So here, an escape, or the escape, the leaving behind, and escape from what? Jatassa, bhutassa, katassa, sankhatassa. The unnegated form of the words that we had encountered before. So the escape from the born, the produced, the made, the compounded. Also, let's notice all of these genitives here. Jatassa, bhutassa, katassa, sankhatassa. Nisaranang. We might think nisaranang being an escape or a going out from might require some kind of ablative. And we've come across this already, but something to keep in mind here is that genitives have a sort of loose relationship to the noun that they're connected to. And in English, we might take an example, say with the pronoun it. We could say its escape, and it might really mean the escape from it. So if these genitives are somehow troubling, you might try to think of them in that light. And then, because this is a conditional, we have an interesting verb here. We have panyayeta. So panyayeta is, first of all, we have to recognize that it's two things about it. It is the passive of pajanati, which is to know. And we also have to keep in mind that it is optative. So we have a passive optative, would not be known. The escape from the born, the produced, the made, the compounded would not be known. And going on, yasma cha ko. But, this is our adversative cha, but indeed, since, or maybe just but since, yasma, O monks, there is the unborn, the unproduced, the uncreated, the unformed. And now with tasma, this is a correlative with yasma, therefore. But I think in English we could probably leave that out. But since this is the case, and then we go here, nisaranang, an escape from the born, the produced, the created, or the made, the compounded. And now we have panyayati. Now this is the passive indicative. So is known. And the obvious import of what the Buddha is teaching us here is that in this world we see where nothing stands still, as Heraclitus said, all things flow, panta re. If there were not a realm or a state, remember these are inadequate words, if there were not this unborn, uncreated, unproduced, uncaused, then we would have no recourse. We would just live with all things flow. But the Buddha, along with many, many, many other spiritual teachers, especially those of the mystical persuasion, is telling us that this realm of manifestation, this samsara, is not the only show in town, so to speak. And that if we remember from before, es evanto dukkassa, that contacting Nibbāna is actually the end of suffering or the end of this state of existence we typically experience, and that it's also unexcelled tranquility and peace. And this is where we will leave things today. Peace, everyone.